This video will explain how to make your thesis more concise, to the point, and how to reduce wordiness. Working with Concision helps reduce your word count and improve clarity. Even though you might not have a strict word count limit on your thesis, you should try to make your thesis as short as possible. A longer thesis is not necessarily a better one, as your reader might be exhausted by the time you actually get to the point. Concise writing takes time to achieve. Often it requires many rounds of revision from previous drafts. Do not be worried if your first draft is not very concise. You will work on this in your later drafts. There are 4 important steps to improve concision in your writing. The first one is to improve subject-verb by using active verbs and remove weak ones. The second step is to remove redundant and less important information. The third step, to reduce wordiness, and the fourth step, to compress phrases into a single word. We will discuss each of these points individually. If you follow them, you will not lose any of the content in your thesis, but you will take considerable less time to get to the point. This will subsequently make it easier to get your main message across to your reader. Examples of weak verbs that do not really provide any specific information in themselves are to be, to get, and to have in their many forms. When you use these verbs, you'll usually end up having to add extra words and nominalizations. For example, when you say that, the outcomes have demonstrated that the data our research team got from the experiment is valid. Have, got, and is are here weak verbs, which could be removed if you replace them with a subject and an active verb. The experiment outcomes demonstrate data validity. This has the exact same meaning, but you save 10 words, making your sentence more concise. You will always find redundant, irrelevant, and less important information in your thesis, which can be removed. Especially interruptions of such unnecessary information within your sentences reduce clarity and concision. Take a look at this example. This sentence includes a lot of unnecessary information that breaks the sentence up and makes it too long. Take a look at what happens when you remove some of this information and reorder the sentence. Despite valid data collection methods, the sample size was insufficient to gather enough data on the study population. This shortened sentence made it more concise and therefore more readable. Take a good look through your own thesis whether you have sentences like this that can be simplified. Wordiness is common in academic writing and can be reduced in many ways. You can remove duplicate pairs of words with similar meanings, such as first and foremost, after the previous, basic and fundamental, any and all, so on and so forth. Or you can also avoid words that act as redundant modifiers, that do not add any additional meaning to your sentence. Examples include completely finished. Finished simply means that you're finished. There's no point saying completely finished, because there's nothing called incompletely finished. Other examples are revolve around, progress forward, finally done, initialize startup. These are all expressions that generally mean the same thing, and one of them can therefore be removed without losing the meaning of the sentence. We also often tend to use redundant phrases that can be shortened. In order to can be replaced with to, prior to can be replaced with before, a number of, several, in addition to can be replaced with additionally. These are just a few phrases that can be replaced by shorter expressions. There are many others that you may be using. Take a critical look at them and see whether they could be replaced. Wordiness can also be reduced by avoiding meaningless adverbs and adjectives, which are often vague and inappropriate in scientific writing. Examples include very, really, quite, actually, rather, basically, kind of, generally, substantially, and interestingly. Always try to avoid pompous language filled with nominalizations, and rather use more plain and clear language. Sounding scholarly does not always make your thesis better. Avoid meta-discourse or meta-writing, where you write about what you intend to write about. When you use statements such as, the author will argue for the benefits of increased spending on research, or, in this section you will be introduced to the necessary concepts, you are simply wasting words. The reader will know this section is about the benefits of increasing spending if you start the sentence with, the benefits of increased spending are. Lead the reader to your topics instead of telling them what they will be reading about. Many phrases can also be compressed into one single word. Because, since, and why can often replace phrases such as the reason for the reason that, due to the fact that, owing to the fact that, in light of the fact that, this is why, on the grounds that. Although and even though can replace despite the fact that, regardless of the fact that, notwithstanding the fact that. About can replace as regards, in reference to, with regards to, concerning the matter of. If can replace in the event that, if it should transpire, if it should happen that. And must and should can replace it is crucial that, it is necessary that, there is a need for, it is important that, it cannot be avoided. Can, could, may, or might can replace is able to, is in a position to, has the capacity for, has the ability to. All these helps reduce your total word count and makes your text more concise and easier to read. You'll not pick up on all of these the first time you read through your second draft. That is why it's useful to have many rounds of revision and to have someone else looking over your thesis draft to pick up on things you missed. Do not hesitate to come by the Writing Center if you need assistance to increase concision in your thesis.